Good. I'd like to call the Tuesday, March 4th, 2025 Ione City Council meeting to order. Janice, could you please call roll?
Councilmember LaFane. Here. Councilmember Mitchell,
Here.
Vice Mayor Maida,
Here. Here.
Councilmember Atman out.
Would you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We get approval agenda. I'd like to pull an item on the warrants myself, and I'd like to move item 5 to number 2.
Move to approve the agenda with those changes.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. We have no presentations or announcements. Open up for public comment on items not on the agenda. Does anyone have any items not on the agenda?
I do. I was unable to come last time because I had a previous appointment, but I just wanted to say that I'm very disappointed that we passed on the $1 million to start our soccer fields and the Howard Park, which I know this city council is really wanting to focus on Howard Park and our kids. I empathize with the girls' soccer. I raised 3 girls in this town. I was soccer coach to all 3. We were behind Little League and we were always pushed off the fields. We had to scramble to find places to practice. And we were treated like second citizens. So I understand, I totally empathize with them wanting their fields. But at the same time, them wanting their fields, we had a chance for $1 million for the soccer fields the whole county plays on. And it could have done that. And then with a good business manager like we have in Mr. Lee, there will be more grants and more ways to improve our fields. And I understand that the last 6 years, they've been promised fields, but that's not this council. The water agency awarded us this gift from lots of work. They set the conditions of the grant. If you have a smart, like George, okay. Girls softball absolutely needs to be done sooner than later, but to not accept $1 million to turf the entire soccer fields is mind blowing. I feel this got out of hand by the public, by the spectacle of council members on social media. The unprofessional, hypocritical airing of dirty laundry on Facebook has been extremely embarrassing to Ione for years. With all the crap thrown around, how can anyone have confidence in our city council when this happens? It's time for our city council to remain in City Hall and not on Facebook or social media.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other items not on the agenda? Anyone's on? Nope. Okay, close public comment. On to a consent calendar. Can I get a approval on that? I guess we're already going to pull the warrants on it. So can we approve the?
I'm pulling the warrants as well.
Okay, so we get a motion to approve item 2 on the consent calendar.
Move to approve the adoption of resolution number 202509, designating the applicant's agent resolution related to local emergency and disaster associated with localized flooding from the January 2017 floods in Amador County, California.
I'll second.
First and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. We have a public hearing item, waive the second reading by substitution of title only and adopt ordinance number.
Mayor, the
five-
warrants.
Oh, excuse me. I thought that got moved to the regular. agenda. Okay, okay, so who wants to go first on the warrants? So you've had some items.
I will.
Is
Okay,
Jimmy okay?
yeah,
Hi there. What do we got?
oh, I didn't. Okay,
I'll go with my item first. Mine's simple. I think it's a typo, but it's Wildan for the Christmas parade traffic control. We have to do this every year. And the chief of police used to be able to do it. Now they made it to where an engineer had to do it. Caltrans used to do it for us. So it says here that Wildan charged $10,500 for the design to permit for the Christmas parade. Is that a typo?
You're seeing that on the Wildan invoice?
Yes, it's on page 12.
Oh, there we go.
It's invoice number 6228491.
That's what that's what they're showing the charges for.
To stamp an already approved parade that's been going on for years.
For the
$10,000.
part relating to the actual parade, they had preparation at 248, some sign work 99.50, parade harvest fair roadway closure 298.50.
part of this says Catholic, there's two entries that are very similar. It says Catholic Church Development Review Golf Course. They both say sort of the same thing.
Are you jumping over to invoice 628
628,492.
492? So that's back a little bit. Six two 92. 453 91 and 92. So for that one, they show school district access road inspections, Castle Oaks landscaping, school district access road inspections, Catholic church map review and comments, Catholic church map response to council member, golf course split.
So it's a little more than a Christmas parade.
That's you jumped over to an entire different,
492.
you jumped over
The
to
next
492.
Well, but the first one has Catholic Church on it as well.
All right, so let's go back over to 491.
Yep.
So for 491, we have the detour plans, Christmas parade traffic detours, additional charges, preparation for that, and traffic control. If I jump back over to 492, it says the Catholic Church map response to council member, reply to golf course split. There's nothing in there about Christmas parade for 492. That's all 491.
So the parade cost $10,000.
$10,503.
Portion that we're paying to Wildan, yes.
I think Will Dan's got some explaining to do.
Can we approve the warrants and pull that one for next time? Or somehow, maybe it is a typo, I don't know. I know he's in the audience, but I don't know if that's the time to discuss it or.
We can certainly pull it from being paid and put it on further review.
Okay, yeah. Someone, okay, any other warrants someone want to
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about?
Because we seem to have typos. The first one is on page 1. Amador County Sheriff's Department. $84,000. Is that just for animal control?
That is our dispatch.
That's not animal.
That's a
control.
quarterly thing. So that is for the second quarter.
Right.
So yeah, it was 84,000 for the second quarter.
It's crazy.
No argument.
Um. And then further on down, we have $3,000 for raw water in winter.
All right, what's your question?
Well, what are we irrigating in the winter time for $3,000?
I can show you how we're funding it. I can show you where we're funding it. If you want to talk to where the water's going, I believe that's a different department.
That's what I'm asking. I don't, if we're getting a bill for water usage, I mean, the soccer field, the fields aren't being irrigated. So how are we using $3,000 worth of raw water? That's the question. But as you say, you can't answer it.
When we see these amounts, we flag them and try to pass them off to our departments that do handle that stuff to look into. It's not that we see these numbers and say, oh, let's just pay it and
No,
forget about it.
I'm not saying you, Dad.
I want to assure
Okay,
you that
okay.
we're. it's
Then we'll
being
move
looked
on to
into.
the next one.
I can add one item to that. I do know out of that 3,1,800 is just to have the water. So
That's the
1,800
service fee on the
Yeah, it's the
meter.
service fee on the meter is the 80 equals
Okay.
1,800.
The next one will be on page 4, $1,500 to a California school board auditor from fiscal year 2021.
Yes, this was recently brought back up as something that we owed back from fiscal year 20 to 21. Our CPA brought it to our attention and we paid what we owed. It's for a GASB 75 report that we owed them for from the fiscal year of 20 to 21.
Yeah, I see that, but why are we paying? I just need some clarification on why we would get a school board auditor. Do you know?
I just know that we owe it and we had an obligation to pay it. As for the decision that led to us having business dealings with this entity, I wasn't here for that, but it's something we're going to be looking into.
But we've already paid it before we looked into it.
This was set aside. Our CPA, former finance manager, said that it's something that we have to pay, and we
Okay.
went ahead, paid them.
Okay.
If you remember the last time we pulled warrants for like Wildan, there were some invoices that were needing to be investigated that weren't being paid. And the direction, this just the last meeting was, why do we sit on it and investigate it all when we should pay it? We are investigating what we need to, and we're paying what we owe.
Okay, no need to, this is the only opportunity we have for questions.
I just want to be very clear.
So moving on to sewer leak paid to Bobby Creech for Preston Avenue, $2,800.
Correct. Yeah, I can answer a question if you have one. I have the invoice here. What would you like to ask?
Did the city engage the services of Bobby Creech to repair sewer leak at 343 Preston Avenue?
There was damages done to 343 Preston due to a sewer leak. This was months ago. Work is nearly finishing and we paid for the services of Bobby Creech to finish pretty much what's left of the work done for repairs of that property. However, there's still some potential secondary work needs to be done outside the property.
Okay. On page 5, Eco Urban Field Services, $2,500. Is that in addition to his landscaping contract?
He describes the whole thing as landscape maintenance of all areas listed under the City of Ione's Castle Oaks landscaping contract. Based on a 3% inflation increase on the contract, the annual approved cost of $29,304 will be increased to $30,183, divided in 12-month payments of $2,515. So it looks
Okay.
like that's the language pulled directly from the contract we have with them.
Okay, I'm just going off what you have here. It just says field services. We asked for an RFP in August
Okay.
because we were having ongoing problems with the maintenance of that area
right.
continual. And we asked that an RFP go out in August of last year. So my question would be to Mr. Lee, do you know when that RFP is going to be?
I don't recall that.
You don't recall council giving you direction for an RFP for the maintenance portion of
No,
his
I don't.
contract? Okay, well, we can pull the minutes.
Yes, we can. I don't recall that.
The next one, page 7. Pump at Howard Park. $1,600. What type of pump?
Your page number is
You're
not,
probably not gonna know that.
I'm just saying your page number doesn't reflect what I have in front of me. So what is the,
Page 7.
again, these are not the same page order that you
Oh,
have.
okay.
These are all our invoices.
This is. Well, it just says pump Howard Park Utilities, $1,600.
Okay, but who is it being paid to?
It doesn't say, it just says pump.
There has to be someone is paid to
it goes
PG&E.
back to PG&E.
PG&E. There we go.
Does anybody know what the pump is?
Pump at Howard Park. That is the description of the location of that particular meter.
I've never seen it described as a pump, so.
I know that there's been an effort to clean up some of the nomenclature of the naming of the descriptions. I remember a few meetings back that you believed that we had a duplicate invoice of like Howard Park. And so to mitigate some of that, I know there's been some moving around of trying to get some of the name nomenclature changed.
Okay, and the last 2 items, West Yost, I see we're paying invoices from September. For the Title II 22 update. Is there any reason why we're?
So in the case of both West Yost and what we'll probably jump on in a second, more Wildan, there are things that are still a few months old, and it's just because of when they gave us the invoice, there's a lack of clarity to properly code it to the right account, or that they didn't fulfill exactly what we needed and we needed to follow up with them. In this case, now you'll see both 930 and 131 for the same concept, the Title 22 update being paid simultaneously because it came within what we needed to properly code it.
Okay, and then yes, the next one is Wildan. See an invoice from January of 2024 and multiple others. So if you combine what was at the last meeting, it looks like we haven't paid them anything.
Wildan
That's just what's reflected here.
Sure, and I would have you avoid the one typo that says that one is being paid 9/9 of 2025 because we haven't paid the future yet.
Oh, I didn't even see that one.
Yeah, it will probably come up at some point. So Wildan is just about caught up. We had to do follow-up research on this 1/15/2024. And a big part of both West Yost and Wildan is we want to attach the proper activity code and bill from the correct account, which means we need
Right.
clarification for exactly what's going on, more than just a line item, we did this.
And I completely understand that. I just go back to the time where you guys wanted to get rid of purchase orders and scope of work to compare the work against the invoice. So, that's what I'm remembering.
Oh, I
Let's
can
get rid
respect
of
that.
bureaucracy. Let's get rid of purchase orders, which, give the scope of work. And that's normally when you get an invoice, you compare it to the scope of work. But anyway, are we caught up or do we still owe more?
Well, as far as back payments of stuff, there shouldn't be anything left, but I know that they have some stuff that you'll see a more recent date on it, but some of it's for stuff that happened in December or January that we've already sent them to put more clarification on. But you should see a more updated invoice date on it because they're going to reissue the invoices, so it doesn't appear as though we're paying late.
That's all I have.
Any other questions on the warrants? Open up the public.
Just Councilmember Atland sent some comments beyond the dais to be read into the record. I believe they've been addressed. Why are we using raw water in January under AWA? Why are we paying for a school audit? What is the PG&E pump at Howard Park for?
Okay.
Public comment.
Open up to public comment. Anyone want to speak on the warrants?
Thank you for that. Was very enlightening. I don't know what we learned in all that process. It's about 20 after right now. Yes, you have the right to ask all those comments. And you might be able to now make an educated guess, but I would hope that in the future, we have all these people in here that you can conduct yourself to asking those questions. Go downtown, pick up a phone, text somebody, ask them, let them know before you try to bomb them at a meeting or something like that. But I think these people here would probably rather hear the the business that you're really going to get into. So I used to sit on the check signing committee and had multiple questions of Sally and Janice and so forth. But I think it's time that we just start. This is the second meeting in a row where I see all these questions, and I don't know if they were actually answered very well.
No.
So please go downtown, pick up a phone or something and try to get your business conducted there. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Mitzi Windley, Fairway Drive. I know it was postponed, the $10,000 for the parade, but that is the absolute most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. You have IBCA, I own Rotary, you have the Picnic Association. Are they all, every time we have a parade, we're going to pay $10,000, or is this one going to cover it all? We're not going to be able to have any parades or do anything because all our nonprofit organizations in Ione, we're getting by the skin of our teeth. So I don't know, because I know that Ione Picnic Association, we do pay for a lot of things. We have to pay insurance, we have to, other things in the city. If you're going to pass that $10,000 on to the organizations, this town's going to dry up. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitzi.
Thank you.
And
I'm not very smart, but I worked for Caltrans for a long time, and they got a public office which this manager could get a hold of, and I'm certain they give you the permit for zero. This is absolutely ridiculous. All it does is take a couple of phone calls to the right people in District 10, which is in charge of this area, and you get it done. And if you don't get response there, go to Sacramento. I guarantee you talk to a senator or something, we'll end this stuff. This is ridiculous. Thank you.
any other public comment? We have Zoom done? Nope. All right, close public comment. All right, someone want to make a motion on the warrants?
I make a motion that we pay our warrants.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? No. Ayes have it. All right, we have a public hearing item. Waive the second reading by substitution of title only and adopt ordinance number 534, amending the start time of the regular agenda meeting to allow for closed sessions before 6 o'clock.
Yes, council, this is the second reading of the ordinance that was introduced at the last meeting. I do want to clarify that the open session portion of the regular meeting would not change. All this ordinance does is memorialize that the closed session before the open session at 6 p.m. can begin before 6 p.m. And it's a minor text change to the ordinance. It doesn't mean that closed sessions have to begin before 6 p.m., but it just allows the council to have the flexibility if they want to hold their closed sessions before the start of the regular open meeting. And I'll pass it back for questions and public comment.
Thank you. Any other questions from council?
So the way this is written, it could be any time of the day.
It could, but
Be any time of the day. Was there an echo? That's my only clarifying question.
Any other comments from council or questions?
None for me.
I have none. Got any, Jody?
I do not. No.
only to add that this is still part of the regular meeting on Tuesday, so it
Right.
just wouldn't make sense to have it that much earlier, but
That's my only clarifying question. I have other comments, but that's my clarifying question, which you answered.
Okay, we'll open up to a public comment. Anyone want to speak? Public comment on this?
Okay. This is a public hearing, so you're opening the public hearing, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. The City Council of Ione is a citizen city council. As such, the meetings should be accessible to the citizens who want to sit on this council. In order to do that, they have to know when their meetings are scheduled. If their meetings are open-ended and they have to be here at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, people who are employed in a citizens council would have difficulty making that meeting or those meetings or all of the meetings, and would dissuade people from running for council. As we have heard repeatedly, we need to be more transparent as city councils. And being transparent means you have to open up your councils to people to run for these positions. By leaving it open-ended as has been put in this ordinance, you are leaving people with no idea when these meetings are going to start. You are not, every single city in this county starts their meetings at 6 o'clock or after. All of their closed sessions are managed at the end of their meetings unless they have a special circumstance. Then they call a special meeting, or they have the closed session at the beginning. But every single city does. We will be the only one who does this, thus closing down again people wanting to run for office. There is an ordinance in our city ordinances that if a council member does not attend 3 meetings, they can be removed. By making the closed session at any time, you have in essence basically weaponized the meeting for the mayor's ability to remove council members. I don't think that's ever a good idea. We've had a very cantankerous council, and weaponizing the regular meeting I don't believe is a very good idea at all. I do want to, in closing, want to say this limits the people's ability to run for the office. It is weaponizing of the council potentially, and it is unheard of in the county. The other meetings start between 6:30 and 7. So we would be the only ones with this. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It isn't conducive to people running for office. And while this council may be fine with coming in at any time, not everybody is. Everybody doesn't have that luxury.
Elmer Rhodey, 621 Pleasant Valley Drive. Why have you wasted time and money on such a silly proposal as this? Ione has plenty of problems to be resolved, and you put this in place because the mayor wanted it. It does nothing for the residents of Ione, and it inconveniences members of the council that work out of town. This will discourage people from running for the council as it is written. The citizens of Ione elected the members of the council to improve the city of Ione, not to give the mayor anything that he wants. I ask Jack and Jody to not be a rubber stamp for the mayor and vote against this item. Thank you.
Mitzi Winley, I want to clarify a couple points. First of all, everybody on our council works. Okay, so they're not going to be calling meetings at 12 and 2 and whatever. Second of all, it does help the citizens of Ione that the meeting's at 6 o'clock here, because many times we've waited while you guys are in closed session and have had to just wait out here, all of us, as much as 45 minutes to an hour. So I think if the meeting's at 6, we're all happy. And I think, like I said, I know every one of you work. So it's not like you're picking on one or two individuals. It's going to be hard for all of you to get off if it's a ridiculous time. Thank you.
Larry Rhodes. I'd just like to mention that all these closed session meetings and the special meetings, it's kind of funny when they had a wastewater committee meeting, they always had them at like 3 o'clock or 2:30 in the afternoon, and everybody made them. Or they had a finance meeting at 3 or 2 in the afternoon, everybody made, sometimes at noon, and everybody made them. I don't know what the big deal is, and you go to the supervisors meeting and they'll tell you, you wait till they do their closed session before you come in. You go to your ARSA meeting, they tell you the same thing. They do the closed session meeting before the meeting. What the heck's going on? And these people know this when they run. And this just happened 4 years ago. It's changed. It hadn't been that way very long. It's been 4 years ago when she ran that they changed this just for her. And I work for the state and I called them, like I said before, and you can get off with no problem if you work for the state. And I'm certain the county's the same way. I just don't see what the problem is. The other meeting, if you would have had it the other night, we would have got out here at 10:30 at night. We would have come and listened to you guys. Out of get a closed session. I believe you got out here about 10:30. Thank you.
Number one, I thought we had to give our name when we come up here.
I don't think you have to do that anymore.
But you should though, because like the last Wednesday meeting.
What's your name, sir?
Andy Algalera. No, but I'm just saying because last meeting Wednesday, nobody said what their name was and I didn't know.
I don't think you have to, I don't think that's legal anymore, just to let you
Okay.
know, so.
Okay, I worked in the lumber industry and we were union. And I usually went in sometimes an hour, 2 hours early to get things ready on some machinery in there. And if somebody wanted to take off early, they asked the boss the day before, well, I got to leave it an hour or two early. And he says, well, if you want, you can come in early and help Andy. And they were very flexible. And if you belonged to a union and you had to go to a meeting, they let you go. And you could come in early and make up that time you were going to miss. But if you went on jury duty, you got paid for it, so that was okay. And I'm all for it because I think anybody that's on the city council, they can get off early, especially if you work for the state, they like it. They figure, oh, you're doing a citizen, a job for the citizens. So all this crying, oh, I can't get off. You can get off if you're union. And I know most plants, they'll let you off early. So the vote on this is up to you guys, not up to us. Because you guys, like somebody said something, Stacy, this and that. Stacy brought it up because everybody else wanted it. A lot of the public wanted it. So you guys, I hope you vote for it. And I don't think anybody's going to lose any milk. And if somebody wants to run for city council, they can run and they can get off of work. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
I'm speaking as a citizen, but I do attend a lot of these meetings. And I will say, no other city complains about staying late for their closed sessions, but I get it. A lot of your closed session items are very busy. You're in there a long time, so I get it. But I just hope that you aren't calling not special meetings, calling closed session meetings at like 3, because that does create a lot of barriers for people who want to hear the report out. And you can't always hop on Zoom at work, So, if you're calling meetings at 5:30 like you did today, I think that's a little more reasonable. But no other city really moves their closed session to the beginning. So, I mean, that's just countywide. So that's just what I've noticed. But as long as you're not calling meetings at 2 or 3, I think most people will be okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Mia.
Sorry, Jody. I got up and spoke when this first came up because through the years when I would come to city council meetings, that do closed session and we'd be sitting in here and then pretty soon nobody was in here, nobody stayed at the meetings. I know this was brought up from people that were for it that I know because it was for the citizens of Ione, so nobody had to sit around and wait. And it was not, the comment is what I was talking about, the negative connotations that are affecting Ione and the city council are because they want to have this closed session meetings right before 6 o'clock, it's weaponizing against a person. That negative connotation and the way that these accusations are being made is greatly affecting the city of Ione.
Any other public comment? We got anyone on Zoom on?
No.
No? All right, do we close the public hearing now?
Yep.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing.
I do have a comment from Councilmember Atlan. Leave the meetings alone and pull for a special meeting if the closed sessions get lengthy.
Any other questions or discussion from council?
Before we vote?
Yeah.
Yes, I'd like to say, a couple things. First and foremost, I have some immense amount of respect for Mr. Rhodey, but I'm not a rubber stamp for Stacy or anybody. Anybody who knows me knows that. Second thing, this last election, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't see like people just jumping at the bit to run for city council. What do we have? 2 people for 2 positions? 3 went, 1 dropped out. I mean, it's I don't think it affected or anybody was not be able to do what they wanted to. And I personally was thinking strictly about the folks that I own. I have no agenda whatsoever. I personally am retired. I could go at any meeting I want to. But I feel as if it's best for us to do this when we're doing it because I've been to enough of these meetings that sometimes council's here and they're in there. You guys are out there. I've been there. We'll sit there and it's been longer than an hour at times. So that's the reason why I think this is a good idea. And I don't believe we're going to disenfranchise anybody.
I'll say the reason I've been trying to do this for years. So it was mostly for staff. I've actually worked in here for 4 or 5 months. I know what it's like to be in here and staff. They're overworked, especially when you have to work all day, then you wait an hour, then you come in and then you work until 10 o'clock at night. Our poor chief over there sometimes works 14 hours because of that. And it's a savings for the attorney. We don't have him here a certain amount of hours. He don't have to go over. So I did it for financial reasons and to help the staff. Any other comments?
Yes. Last year, we had not one closed session before our regular meeting. They were all at the end. Staff was not here. We held them all at the end of the meeting. I was the mayor. I held no.
Ma'am.
Yeah. Whatever. We can look at the agendas. Staff was not here. Staff was gone. Sometimes Janice was gone too. If we just waiting for everybody to have their little chit chat. What are you going to do about the stipend? Because if a council member is being paid by another source, they don't get their money. So if you show up and you're on someone else's payroll, city is going to have to deduct their monthly stipend. That's more work for them. And life changes. People's lives change. I was not working when I ran for council. Now I am. I cannot just take work off. It's a busy office. I'm needed. So if I do take work off, I have to use my leave balances that I've accrued at work to come here. We had very few closed sessions last year, very few. We only have a couple items that usually mandate closed session. Hopefully one of those is resolved soon. But Dominic's idea is a good idea. You have them at the end of the meeting. If your meeting goes long, you poll the then council members and say, hey, can you all get together tomorrow at this time and we can continue the meeting? You have to accommodate, I see nothing to accommodate the members, the council members that have jobs outside of the city. It is just with this administration, we've never had city council meetings where staff is so heavily involved, ever. I can remember times last year where no staff was here. The city manager handled all of the reports. And now we deal more with staff than we do the city manager. That's not our role. We should not be discussing the administration of the city directly with staff members. It's even outside their job descriptions. But I mean, I don't like the fact that there's nothing in writing saying when these meetings are going to start. The reason people don't run for city council is because it takes a lot of time and you don't get paid. That was a question a lot of people asked me. Well, how much do I make? Well, you don't make much of anything. You make, less than $200 and you put in a lot of hours. This was brought up quite a few times. The intentions given to me as to why they were being brought up were not the same as what is being presented now. It was to make sure somebody missed 3 meetings so they could be removed. Verbatim. But there are already 3 votes. So I know I'm speaking in vain. And it's probably going to pass, and you watch. First closed session meeting is going to be well before 5 o'clock.
Any other discussion other than the, if you miss 3 meetings, you're kicked out? That don't exist. It never has.
Well, we've got to keep an attendance log first.
Have anything, Vice Mayor?
Well, as we're done with all this, I am going to go ahead and make a motion to waive the second reading by substitution of title only and adopt ordinance number 534, amending the start time of the regular meetings to allow for closed session before 6 p.m.
Do we have a second?
I would like to add to that.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No,
Ayes have it.
there you go.
All right. Moving on to regular agenda, item 1, status of sewer lateral investigation on Shakely Lane. Oil report by Jonathan Mitchell.
Not Jonathan.
We can share.
Jonathan.
Thank you, sir. Adam, give that one to the public.
Thanks.
Jordan, you want to share, Jordan?
Thanks. All right. Jonathan Mitchell, city engineer. So I thought we'd do it a little different with the handouts tonight and underestimated the number in attendance. But our typical is we've gone on the screen and we've heard that it's not legible or we can't see it. So try to do this where we could all study the handouts. But we may switch it up in the future. I do both. It looks like that may have been a better option here. So apologies for that. Let's go ahead and move into the item here that we're scheduled to address is sewer collections at 415 Shakely Lane. We were asked to perform an investigation here at this residence to determine what the cause of a backed up sewer was that affected this residence. And so what we did is under contract with the city, we have ABC Plumbing. And they performed an investigation based on right of entry received by the owner, which included a video investigation. If you'll go ahead to your second page, you see these essentially photographs of the site. Now, moving on here, what we see is this is municipal code 13.20.100, which is maintenance of city of side water, and then also 13.04.260, which is sewer side. And there's a photograph here that shows the blockage. In your handout, you see a photograph of the blockage. Essentially what's happened is the lateral that runs down from the residence intercepts with a clay pipe. And this clay pipe has collapsed. So that is the challenge that has caused the sewer to back up into the residence. And we have video evidence of the clay pipe collapse. Now the clay pipe collapse extends onto the roadway and also interfaces with the sewer main that's under the roadway. And so in this case, the roadway would have to be trenched, the clay pipe replaced, and then also the repairs made to backfill the roadway, get compaction, and patch the area that was impacted. So it would be a roadway patch as well as a sewer repair to the lateral. There is a PVC pipe that approaches the lateral and makes the connection, and the PVC pipe shows no indication of blockage at this time. Now, sewer pipe or clay pipe it's typically an older construction mechanism. These are known to collapse, especially with time, and that's exactly what's happened in this case. Also, an interesting thing to note here is the clay pipe, which is aged and has collapsed, does not run at the same angle as the PVC pipe from the resident's home. So you have a corner that occurs at the interface between the plastic pipe, the new pipe, and the subgrade clay pipe. And so that also is causing the sewer to have to turn this bend, which further compounds the situation. So once you have a collapsed clay pipe at the other side of the corner, it naturally lends itself to back up. The cost of repair is estimated at $8,500, which would include the patching of the roadway. The city's municipal code asserts that owners are responsible for the repair of these laterals from the main, which is under the road in this case. And so it is at the discretion of city council if they would like to proceed with making these repairs. Since it would, according to the code, be from the main onto the road, which would be the lateral, which would be the responsibility of the homeowner.
I have one question. We were told that I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those houses all share that line. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that would, I believe that is the case, Mayor. However, we only had right of entry granted for one residence. That's 415.
Okay.
Our desire as a city was to investigate the other residences as well, do a red dye test so that we could understand exactly where these other residents route subgrade. We believe that they do tie in, and there's an indication of that in the PVC that's on the property of 415, that there's an additional tie-in that's occurring before the roadway. But the problem is that we don't know the source of actually where those, what is coming in. And since we don't have approved access to those other residences at this time, one of the recommendations that we've asserted here in the presentation is that we gain access to those other, if possible. Should we be able to gain access to those other residences, we can do a dye test and we can fully understand how many residences are coming into that one lateral.
Yeah, I think Justin said there was like 4 more or something like
That's,
that.
we estimate, but we don't have any as-built to indicate exactly what's happening there. But since it's not on the street side, we have a map of the collection system on the city side. And we believe we understand some of what's occurring on the private property side. But without a red dye test, we can't be sure of what's happening on the private property side.
And this is a prime example, just to remind everyone, for 6 years, I've been trying to bring this to the council that, because this is a problem all over old part of town when they changed it from the property line, where then the city took over anything under the street, then they changed it to the main, and that this is all over. It ain't them. I mean, there's probably 50 to 100 houses that have this same issue. And when Vice Mayor gone, that's the first thing he wanted to bring up when we brought up getting the first meeting. So we're trying to correct this so the city can, because this is a simple one. The poor people that live on Preston Avenue or State Highway, they're gonna have to go through Caltrans, and there's no way in the world they're gonna get a permit from Caltrans to rip up a state highway to fix a pipe that the city put in 1,000 years ago. So. Any other questions from council?
What do you recommend, Jonathan?
Repair, I recommend that repairs be made as per this recommendation from the presentation. And I also recommend that we gain access to those additional properties so we can run a red dye test and further understand what the inflows are into this lateral. And then we can maybe propose additional improvements, or we could get in front of another failure, which would be the main thing. If we can understand we know what the cause is, we believe we've overloaded a clay pipe, which is much older than the lateral that connects to it. And we also know that the lateral carries significant flows compared to what the clay pipe is capable of handling. We know that the lateral hits the clay pipe at an angle, so it's not just a straight run into the main. So we know that the whole setup led itself to this condition. And so we would like to make the repair, and we would also like to further investigate other factors that may have contributed to this so that it doesn't happen again in this area. Now, in terms of who is responsible for the cost of the repair, that's outside of an engineering recommendation.
Well, what you're saying is there's four houses on there. Well, you're not saying that.
We believe that there are additional
but
homes,
th-
yeah, up to 4 or
it's a
5.
significant
It is.
flow that's backing up, not just one home.
That's right.
And that's not the fault of the homeowner.
I know one residence, well, I guess you'd call it that probably in the late 80s is a 6-inch line, and it's got over 50 dwellings hooked to that one pipe. So this is like nothing new.
I want to discuss this. Yeah, I have no questions.
Anything, Mr. Mitchell?
Just interested on, from a legal standpoint, municipal code. I'm the property owner and you're having me responsible for pipe that's no longer on my property out to the main. That is legal?
Yeah,
All right.
it's not not the only agency with that.
Oh, I'm just
requirement.
curious.
Yeah.
Just for
Janice,
clarification.
correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't that changed in like 97,
93.
93?
Done like in 92, 93.
So before that, this would have been our problem, no problem, but somewhere in 93, I don't know who had this idea. But and I think what it was is because when they did the study and decided how screwed up a lot of the laterals were, they said, oh, let's make the citizens pay for it, which is way wrong. So, but that's why we're trying to change the ordinance.
Honorable Mayor, if I could also add one item for context here. At the time that the connections were made, the city does have a municipal code, of course, that would also dictate the level of construction standards made at the time of construction. And should the code indicate that the landowner was responsible for the connection all the way to the main, it may have impacted the builder's decision and the city's and the interpretation of the code at the time as well. In other words, the connection may not have been made to a clay pipe should the landowner have known that the series of houses would have been contingent on that clay pipe performing to the extent that the PVC pipe is capable of performing.
Yeah. Like I said, there's probably 100 houses out here with that problem.
I'd be curious to what the homeowner has spent so far. I'm gonna guess thousands of dollars, if not more. Probably closer to 20 at least.
I had the exact same problem and I think we spent probably $400 a year for many, many years until the pipe totally collapsed. So I would love to help them, but I don't know if legally we can. If that sets a precedence, then everyone in this whole town is going to say, rip up all the lines and.
Well, I had a conversation with Amanda and she made it clear that she knows that she's responsible for what's on her property. And I respected her frank discussion. I was quite impressed that we had a nice little talk. And we do know that those other lines tie in. We've investigated that. So I don't believe we should spend another dime on dye test or something like that. But my fear is going into the street, but I want to hear from other people and also obviously from public comment.
Any other council questions?
Not at this time.
All right, I'll open up to public comment.
Andrea Bonham speaking in as a citizen and someone who's had sewer problems also. It seems like this should be a simple solution in the sense that if you're going to change the ordinance, which takes you 60 to 90 days to change that ordinance, if you can't make an exception and say, we are going to be taking this ordinance and making it to the position that the city takes everything from the property line that goes under the streets to the mains, then you just create an exception to get this one fixed now, so they don't have to wait 90 days to come back and possibly have another sewer spill. They've already been here twice, and it seems like a simple solution. If that's already the route you guys are going, it's just a timing of just to get it done, since that's what the rules are going to be. So it's not like you're doing something completely out of your ordinance. They're just having to do it for emergency reasons before the ordinance is actually finalized.
Larry Rhodes. The city actually hooked mine up. Like I said, $184. Dave Kohler, Frank Marhefka hooked it up. I stood there and watched them. And if I remember right, they used old terracotta, which I ran full range plastic. I don't know why they kept using terracotta. Maybe they had a stockpile of it, but it's nothing but trouble. And if you read the federal municipal code about sewers, I think it was, I don't know about now, a 3-inch line, you could put 5 bathrooms on. A 4-inch line, you could put 8 bathrooms on, if I remember correctly when I read that years ago. And like my son mentioned, we know a line It's 6 inch and there's 54 units on it. So and there's people that live on the city. I work for the state. I know what you got to go through to get a permit. Those people have to have probably $1 million bond to open up, and the city don't have to have nothing. All the city's got to do is tell them they're digging up their street. That's all they got to do. And they don't need a permit or nothing to build a state highway. Just like me as a maintenance person, I could go dig up something wrong with the road. I go dig it up and fix it. It's the same thing, but a poor private person, minute they cross that line, they better have a bond, they better have a contract license, they gotta have all this stuff. You're looking, something that somebody could do for $4,000 turns into about $15,000 to $20,000. And you gotta have a licensed flagman too, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to bring it back to the human level because Commissioner LaFane asked, I thought, a really relevant question, which is how much has the homeowner already paid? And it's been thousands and thousands of dollars over the past 4 years. And just so you understand the nature of what they're dealing with, they are living in an open cesspool when there are heavy rains, to the point where there is human feces and toilet paper swimming in their front yard. A member of their family was sickened by it, and she has had to throw away hundreds of dollars worth of her children's toys. Bicycles that were underneath the staircase where the raw sewage pumps up, gallons of it a day, that within 3 days would have filled a swimming pool of raw sewage. So she threw the toys away, she threw the bikes away, and now she, out of her own pocket, cleans that up, and often with their bare hands. I'm so grateful to that gentleman who just spoke a moment ago and reminded you all that you have the discretion and you have the power and you can actually make a fix here that would cost a private citizen a huge amount of money. She received quotes that were 2 to 3 times what the city engineer just said, because there are all those other things and hoops she has to jump through to make that happen. So please exercise the discretion that you have. This is not a big ticket item that makes a huge difference in the life of this family that has suffered enough. And we ask you to consider those things.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, we got someone on Zoom, it looks like.
Go ahead, Sue.
Hi, Sue, Ione resident. I would like to remind everybody that if the homeowner choose to move forward and just repair her line, I believe that would be 3 other homes that would not have any sewer. So I would suggest that the city assist with the situation. The homeowner has done above and beyond. Just remember, there's 3 other homes at least. Thank you so much.
Anything else, chief? Okay, we'll close public comment. Jonathan, could you come back up to the podium so we can pick your brain a little bit? If we can move forward on it, at least get to where this, obviously it's the lateral where the terracotta breaks up or connects. Can we, the city, remove the terracotta, fix that collapse pipe or the ponding part and go to their property line and then allow them to fix whatever on their side? Because it sounds like the major problem, there's 2 problems. One is all the connections up on the private property, and then our part, which is obviously has an issue under the road. Is there a way where we could take care of that? And then on their property line, they take care of that, and we can maybe help them with, so we waive permits and fees or what, that kind of stuff?
We absolutely could. In this case, we could install a clean out, for example. However, in this case, I believe that all of the problem that we're seeing is actually on the city property.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So if we took care of that, we can do that for them.
And I don't believe that additional repairs would be required by the resident for a functioning sewer at that point. So now what I would say, however, is that if we installed a clean out at the time that we made the repairs on the city side, that would enable a much more serviceable sewer system by the resident moving forward and the city. because we would be able to, for example, we would be able to access what we did with a camera and look under our road without right of entry by the resident and the additional time spent to coordinate with the contractor and staff from the city side, where we could move directly out there. It's just a matter of regular maintenance. Should there be some issue that's identified in the area, we could see if there's a problem and we can service it.
Was that is the clean out part of your quote?
It is, yeah.
So you know that on
And
the
it's
Old
de
Town
minimis
one,
as well. It's, we're talking PVC fittings here.
Yeah.
Yep.
and Old Town, that's how it was. It was a clean out was right on the line. So the city could have access to that lateral.
That's right. And the owner as well, they could do, say, camera imaging, that type of thing, and they could go from the clean out back towards their residence. So that would be much more reasonable. One thing I'd like to point out as well, and clay pipe's very finicky. We see it decay and deteriorate for lots of different reasons, but one of them is moisture. That's one of the big things. So for example, if you see a clay sewer line that's running through an area where there's a lot of subgrade water flow, then you'll see the decay and the breakdown of that sewer much more quickly. And in this case, we did observe that there are indication that a lot more standing water exists out there than what we would typically expect right now. And we don't know the cause of that. But it may be from some property residents draining. It could be irrigation drainage. There could be other things. And that's why the simple solution here is the PVC replacement, because it's not vulnerable to that type of subgrade water to the extent that the clay is.
I've worked on a lot of sewer lines around here and you're going to find out that probably 10% of them's transite. So got to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a cuss word in piping, if you know what that is. So
So yeah, the PVC would be the solution without getting into, okay, what's the root cause here? Is there additional water flows? Where are those from? We don't want to start a hunt in that way. We'd rather just make a quick replacement and repair of the problem.
can I get a quick talk to legal counsel? Does that sound like what Andrea was saying, something that we could do being we're working that way? I'm guessing that when we get to that point, this council's going to be unanimously agreeing on voting on putting us back how it used to be to the property line. So could we temporarily do this to help them out?
Do you have a comment? Sorry.
You can't generally speak for all the council members. We don't know what's in front of us. We don't know how much the cost. We don't know anything.
No, there's a way that you could direct staff to pursue this minimal scope repair, get the issue fixed, and continue pursuing the ordinance change. And as that ordinance proceeds, if it goes forward, I would raise all our legal concerns of things that you should be aware of, and the precedent issue of that's less of a legal concern of just council to be aware of. If once you repair one, there's no guarantee that others won't come forward as well. You could also, our direction would be a minimal scope of, if costs start rising, we would flag it and probably come
We
back.
can do it as an exception for now, as an emergency exception.
Yeah.
That's a public health concern.
The exception.
I want to cut to the chase. I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and get this repaired. And I also would like to keep people informed that we are going to try to change this, but we need to do this with an exception. I don't know how to verbalize it or anything, but that's I want to copy Andrea.
Because a public health emergency exception, we'd like to move that we fix the clay pipe to the property line.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion.
Do I get a second?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Like guys have it?
I had some questions.
I would, if we could put a pause on the motion to close the public comment if there's any.
We haven't even closed
Okay.
public comment yet.
There we go.
You did too.
My name is
I
James
closed-
Marzano.
I did close the public comment.
Oh, you did?
But
Oh.
you
Apologies, Mayor.
go ahead.
I'm here in support of Ms. Naranjo. I had a question. By no means am I an engineer. By no means am I a city council member, nor am I as educated as any one of you people sitting at this desk. However, I was a combat engineer in the Seabees, and I have pushed dirt and laid some pipe. My question is this: flow volume. We've established that there is a 4-to-1, a 5-to-1, a 12-to-1, 100-to-1, whatever the case may be. Is flow volume the reason for the
ruining of the pipe? Is there going to continue to be a flow volume issue? Are we fixing one issue to potentially create worse of a problem? I don't know. That's beyond my pay grade. That was just a concern. I appreciate everything you guys are doing. Thank you.
Yeah, that was my concern.
Okay. All right, so moving on to,
Oh, we need to just take the vote for one more time. First,
okay,
staff convenes.
so can I get a motion again?
Yeah, go for it.
Made an emergency exception to fix the pipe up to the property line.
I second.
Well, first and second, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
I don't think we got enough information.
Ayes have it.
So is that just the clay portion or the entire area?
To the property line.
Did
All right,
Councilmember LaFane vote? I didn't hear if she voted or not. I don't believe she did, but
When I don't vote, it turns into an abstain.
okay.
okay, so on to item 2,
Okay.
which is item 5 that we're moving up, request for zoning ordinance exception to extend the time period for reconstruction of a non-conforming residential unit.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Susan Peters, City Planner. This item was brought to this application for rebuilding the residence at 15 Plymouth Highway was submitted to the city a little bit ago. And after reviewing the building permit application, we realized that this was residence was on a commercially zoned piece of property. So it's considered an existing non-conforming use. Having that residence there is not allowed in the commercial zone, but they're able to continue to use that use as a residence in a commercial zone, as long as it doesn't go, they don't cease use or something happens to the building. If something happens to the building, which is what happened in this case, the building burned down, the ordinance does allow for the building to be replaced within 3 years. So the property was sold. The new property owners would like to replace that residence, and it's exceeded that 3-year period. So staff has reviewed this application and is requesting that the city council consider doing an exception to that 3-year requirement and extending it out to allow this property owner to build a residence in a commercial zone. In the long run, the property owners may want to rezone, and that's something that can be considered at a later date, but this would allow those property owners to proceed with their building permit and rebuild that residence. Included in your packet is a resolution allowing for that exception. Do you have any questions of staff?
Okay, any questions from council?
It's zoned as a residence now.
No, it is zoned commercial. It
Zoned
has been
commercial.
zoned commercial for at least 2009, if not longer. And there's probably, I wasn't here obviously then, but there's good reason for why that was probably zoned commercial. And it's because it's along a highway and it's in a, there are other residentials in the area, but the city at the time probably wanted to protect commercial development because it's revenue generating for the city. So you would protect it by allowing it to stay commercially zoned in the event that it ever transitioned over into that commercial use from residential.
But it was not commercial prior to the fire. It was a home.
The zoning has always been, as far as I've been able to look back, commercial, but the use has been residential.
Okay.
Any other council questions or comments?
No questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, open up to public comment.
The second Fisher will step up to the plate today. Patty Fisher, Mizuraka, Mount Echo Drive, Ione. I am, and my husband are the owners of 15 Plymouth Highway. And getting this 3-year waiver, that's the least of my worries at this point. I know that can happen. But how this all came about is the house burnt in 2019. And I know you guys all know that because you have it in my letter. The house burnt in 2019. House went into litigation for almost 4 years. They settled in November of 24. And Pete and I bought it in I take that back, November of 23, I'm sorry. Pete and I bought it in July of 24. And so as we were working on, because it is a burnt house, if you drive down Plymouth Highway, you can clearly see that about 70% of it is burnt. So we called the building inspector out to just give us an idea, what do we need to leave standing to remodel this into a home? And that's when all of this come up, that you're on commercial property. And I was like, what? So it was a little white house built back in 1948. It has continued to be a house. And so when I got the phone call December 23rd, that I'm sorry, you can't rebuild, you have to put a commercial building there. So that's when my strip club idea came about. So I'm being facetious, of course, but because I said there's not enough parking there to put a strip club in. And Mrs. Smiley across the street's just going to love that, right? So needless to say, we realized it was commercial. And so we pretty much halted everything at that point because of the fact, even if we rebuild this little home back there, lenders are saying you will never get anybody to buy this place, having it be a commercial lot. Because if it once again burns clear to the ground and there's nothing left standing and you have to build a commercial building there or I should say a residence, but say they don't, they're up a creek. That homeowner's up a creek. And then I could be left holding the bag. So that's where we're coming from, is we would like this foremost rezoned. And so looking at, all the maps that are out there, it is considered right now light commercial. Everyone else across the street, I shouldn't say Stroh's, Tommy's, the apartments, Mr. and Mrs. Smiley's, most of you all know who those houses are, and the gentleman next to Mr. and Mrs. Smiley's, they're all commercial transition. So I'm assuming that commercial transition is both residential and commercial. Is that correct? Correct, yeah. So commercial transition is both. If I could have commercial transition on my side of the highway, it would be great. But for whatever reason, when the city redid these maps, so I'm talking Plymouth Highway. We've got the Shell station, then we've got Cal Burris's place, which she did run a business there. She's commercial. Doc Blake's building, commercial, and then me. Everyone else after that up the highway is considered, I guess it's just considered a residential. There's an R1B and an R1A residential, including, all of Raymond Drive. So it just seems strange that they would do one side as transitional and the other side commercial. And that's where I'm at, is I don't want to build a strip club. I want to build a cute little house back on that property. But I would like, if you're going to go back and look at some of these maps for the city, I'd love to be included in the Planning Commission's ability to change this to commercial transition. Thank you.
Thank you.
When Chris Jordan changed this years ago, I got up and bitched about it. I had 40 people in here, landowners, that they were changing, because every bit on every state highway was commercial. And a commercial, then you could build a residence on it. That's how I was able to build my house. It was commercial property. If I wanted to build a building 6 stories high, then I could go property line to property line and build a building there. Chris Jordan stopped all that. He wanted everybody to be residential so he can control it. And everybody was down here, all 40 of them, I believe. If you look, all the CTs where everybody was here. The old people couldn't make it, didn't happen. And that's what happened to that place. And every property on the state highway was commercial, and you could build a house on it, was set up that way. And then they come up with a CT because they're afraid the city said they, you might sue. And that's what they didn't like. Because they can't tell you what to do with your property when everybody's bitching about it. And this is what this come about. It's crazy. Why don't they make it all CT now? Just leave it, everybody on the state highways. It's terrible. Andrea Bonham did the same thing over there where they set her house off by her safe. She had to change it to CT. And that was done very easy. They just voted on it and did it. But I think everybody ought to have a chance to do this is on a state highway. Because they got access, you can make an office out of it. The corner where I was at, there's a house. It was a house now, and one time it was a chiropractor's office. Before that was a residence again. I think it ought to be the people paying the taxes, the ones that ought to be the state planners should be telling people how to run their property. Thank you.
Only because Larry brought up my name. I must be the guinea pig in town where I have every problem, zoning and sewer issues. So as far as the zoning, what I did a couple years ago had this exact same problem. And I came to the city and I said, okay, look, if my house burns down, I can't rebuild it. And they said, don't worry, it's never going to burn down. I said, well, that's not a good answer. Luckily, they were happening to update the housing element anyhow and looking at zoning. So I was able to get in planning commission that way. But I'm going to agree with Larry and Patty where the commercial of everything was CT or multi-use, which seems to be a term that people understand more than commercial transition, which we had that issue when it was passed. I was actually on the council. It would solve a lot of problems for people to be able to even go back and forth. Like you rent a house, then, you know, someone comes in and has a salon or something, but then you can rent it as a house again, where it's more fluid, like you see in downtown areas, as opposed to, nope, burns down, you got to build commercial. Because like my house, I plan on living in it. Even if it burnt down, I'd rebuild it. And you're going to have that issue for everyone that's just designated as commercial in all those older homes.
I do want to clarify one issue here is that if a non-conforming use building structure does burn to the ground, even if it's 100%, there's nothing left, you can rebuild it as a non-conforming structure. That is in the ordinance. It's built into the ordinance. It says you have to do it within 3 years, but it's built into the ordinance. I understand the concern about getting a mortgage and insurance, because lenders and insurance companies a lot of times see that zoning and they're like, nope, can't do it because the zoning doesn't allow for it, but they don't go into that other section of the ordinance and look and see that it actually can be rebuilt. I've written over my career hundreds of rebuild letters to lenders and to insurance companies demonstrating that, yes, they can actually rebuild after a fire. It is difficult, and they do make it difficult for the property owners though. So I understand the concern.
Thank you, Susan. Any other public comment? Anything on Zoom, John? I'll close public comment. I'll say I wasn't in politics when this all happened, but I remember my dad cussing for like months when this was going on about that change. So, with that said, personally, I would like to get this resolution and then maybe in the future talk with Susan about doing this, converting things back to C2. But any other questions from council or comments?
Susan, did this go before the planning commission? City Planning Commission?
No, we didn't take it in front of the planning commission, partly because of timing and also because it's a waiver from the ordinance and they wouldn't be able to do that. That would rest on with the city council.
You're right. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think me personally, I think it's a no-brainer that we need to approve this ordinance exception. And if anybody else would like to comment?
Got any comments?
Any comments, Councilmember Levine?
No.
I have a comment from Councilmember Atlan. Grant the extension, remove the provision as a replacement, like for like, home for home should not be subject to a time frame.
Okay. Someone want to entertain a motion?
Can we remove the time frame on this ordinance? Now do we need to bring it back?
Have to bring
That would be a future item, and I believe there's a housing element process, and so
Okay.
ordinance changes will be coming to the council at some point in the future,
Okay.
and that we can make a note of. That's a proposed amendment.
I'd make a motion, we pass resolution number 2025-11, the request for exemption from Ione Municipal Code 17-16-140 for Pete Mizuraka and Patty Fisher Mizuraka, property owners of 15 Plymouth Highway.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. All right, moving on to item 3, consider adoption of new policy for audio/video recordings of closed session meetings.
Do we do it? Do we rearrange the funds for the purchase of the Black Widow?
Yeah, we need to do that one next.
Skip one? Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, approve additional funds to purchase Black Widow 8009 arena groomer for the Ed Huser Memorial.
Andrea Bonham, this time staff, and you get me just because there's nobody else from Public Works. So we had the arena groomer that was approved. The original, if you look at the staff report, the original quotes came from the arena committee at 7,200, which that didn't include the tax, delivery, and setup fee. So we ended up purchasing that original one for 82. Let's see. I think the total came to 8269.82. We did take delivery of that system, and they got it hooked up. The gentleman came to show them how to use it. The hydraulics hooked up great. And it turns out that tractor has a really wide wheelbase on the back wheels. And the groomer, which we thought would be big enough, would have been big enough for the old tractor. The tires on the groomer are inset on the front, and they go right up against the tractor tires. So you can't make a turn or you can't lift it because then it's poking the tires. So I spoke to Clint at the trailer specialist, and he says normally those aren't returnable. Any serial, I'll read him directly. It says, our company statement on returns and fees, serialized product is not typically returnable, and the buyer's order states this. We have no problem exchanging the unit for the correct one, along with receiving payment for the difference in price. Please note that exchanging the product should happen soon, as it will incur another $200 fee to pay for the delivery for the second time. And it is kind of you have to have a forklift to unload it. So Zach was out there, our Public Works manager, to unload it and hook it up. So it's not they just don't show up and drop it off. So anyhow, we're coming back to the council to approve the difference, which is $1593 to purchase this bigger one. Our other option is we can keep the old one, and Zach can cut the bars and extend them, which seems not ideal to take a brand new piece of equipment and cut it with a torch to make it work. So staff is recommending that we get the sized up.
Does that tractor have a backhoe?
No, it has no implements on it. It has a 3-point hitch in the back. I don't have a bucket or nothing.
It's just, so it's just a pull.
Correct. Any other questions from council?
I have
Any
no
questions for me?
questions, Andrea. Thank you.
This is well within the city manager's budget to approval. I think we exchanged emails back in December when this came up, and I said, you don't need to bring it back to council. It's under the $15,000 threshold. You're free to buy what you want. So, but I understand how, the tires fit. It wouldn't have been big enough.
Yeah, I think the reason why it's coming back to council, so council's aware of the process and what happened and transparency. So you know exactly, since you guys approved the initial purchase, and this is in addition to the purchase, is why we're bringing it back, just so council's aware of the issues.
Who measured it?
I don't know. I would say Public Works.
All right, any other questions or comments from council? Open up public comment. Any public comment on this? Seeing none. Got any, John?
Nope.
Close public comment.
Well, I'm always seems to be the first one to talk. Maybe I got too big of a mouth, but to me, I don't believe we should be trying to alter on the brand new piece of equipment. That would be ridiculous. So my opinion is we go ahead and add the extra funds, save the $200, which actually will save us a little money for a delivery fee again. And that's what I believe we should do.
Someone want to make a motion? Or is that your motion?
That's not my motion. Well, I guess it is my motion. I just want to we'll find the money thing here.
Make a motion to pass the 1,293 additional purchase.
I second.
You have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? No. Guys have it. Okay, now moving on to item 3. Consider adoption of new policy for audio video recordings of closed session meetings.
Yes, council, this is the next meeting that we've discussed this. We've discussed it at a couple meetings before. On February 4th, you considered a proposed policy for recording closed sessions by audio and video device. Generally, to do that, you would have to have a custodian, secure location, making sure only council members and other authorized city officers would have access. We got some requests on additional details and implementation. One of the requested changes was to change the custodian to the police chief from the city clerk. So the policy has been revised to specify that the custodian is the police chief. There was also a question about what this means for staff and implementation of the policy. The proposed method of implementation will be a body camera, and that footage would be uploaded into a system. And so any council member that wants to come and view the recordings would have to set up an appointment with the chief. There would be a laptop set up in a private room, and you could view the footage of the closed session. Then you would have to sign into a secure account to do that. For actual impacts to staff, Chief and I did speak. The uploading process, by the time we hand the video to Chief, would be about 30 minutes per month, but he would also have to be available to monitor, not monitor, but be there while any viewing appointment happened. The one complication I want you to be aware of is sometimes not all council members are allowed to be in a particular closed session discussion. They might be conflicted out. And oftentimes we talk about multiple topics in one closed session. So somehow those items have to be segregated. And measures would have to be taken to make sure only authorized council members and staff could view what they're privileged to see. So one possibility to do that is when we have the camera in there, we have to start and stop it every time we switch topics, which logistically can be difficult. We just have to be careful. Another idea to prevent that and making sure the only people who see the video are the actual authorized council members is you could decide to not record those meetings at all to prevent any possible leak or to ease that administrative burden. So that's just the one difficulty of when we do the recordings, to make sure that no one actually sees the footage that they're not allowed to see. So this is for your discretion. Closed sessions are confidential, and if once you have the footage, it is subject to review if there's an alleged violation of the Brown Act, and you could receive a court order to disclose it. But if you want to adopt it and start implementing this policy, then we would add it to the city council handbook, and there's a resolution to adopt as well.
Thank you. Any council questions, discussion?
I have no questions.
No?
No.
I have a few. Can you clarify, on the attachment 13A, item number 3?
The purpose of that is just to specify that they're the only authorized individuals who could actually see the footage would be those who are actually present or authorized to view the footage. So that's council members.
I understand that part. Read the second part of the paragraph.
Starting at and or.
Other representatives who may, on a case-by-case basis, be directed to inspect certain portions of the closed session records by the city council for the purpose of providing analysis or opinion to the city council or legal representation to the city in the event of actual or anticipated litigation or legal action.
The intent is to authorize special counsel to be able to view it if they were privy to that closed session.
It doesn't say that. This says any representative. So this could, we could say, hey, we want our special investigator to listen in and give an opinion.
The council would have to direct that. Not anyone would just have act. It would.
I understand that. So the majority of council could say, that's a huge liability right there. You're asking the majority of council to possibly appoint someone to listen or view the tape and then give their opinion. Why?
Well, related to actual or specifically, so for example, if we have special counsel in closed session and they're looking for direction from counsel for ongoing or other anticipated litigation they've been contracted for, they'd be authorized to view it.
But it doesn't say special counsel. It says any other and or other representatives who may, on a case-by-case basis, be directed to inspect certain portions. That's very vague.
It was designed to be more of a catch-all, but my mind
is a
goes
catch-all.
to mostly that would capture special counsel who's already
It
contracted by
doesn't
the
say that
city.
though.
We can,
There's a lot of loopholes in here. The purpose of this, the justification of this still hasn't been made clear.
this was,
I've been waiting for why now? What, we've never, this has never come up before. So, usually there's a reason something like this would come up. So why now?
it was a council member
Right, that's
request.
I'm
Yeah.
asking.
Ask the council members. Question. He was given direction by us. I'm for it because
Oh, I'm sorry. It's
okay, you asked, okay, but you want to get an answer, I'll be happy to answer.
For the reason for bringing the item forward,
yes, the justification to you, because that's usually the procedure, which we'll talk about later. When we want something on the agenda, we provide a justification. This is what we'd like, and this is the reason why. Was that justification provided?
not thoroughly in the beginning.
I was not present at the meeting when this came through. I'm not clear on what type of system we would be using.
Chief, would you like to supplement anything that I explained on use of a body camera?
So we actually it touched on it last meeting, and I invited all council members to come see me and show you the system, but it's lens lock. It's our body camera system. It's highly secure. It logs everything. There's a chain of custody, so anybody that views it, it logs that, and so it's extremely secure. We use it for evidentiary purposes for our body cam as well as all of our digital evidence in the police department.
And where would it be?
It's cloud-based. It's a cloud-based system, and we can set it up where The council camera is not accessible by anybody other than me to tag it. And then there'll be a special account made for council to be able to go on and view that by appointment.
Where would it be in the room? That's what I meant.
You mean the body
The
camera?
actual camera, yes. You're saying it's a body camera. Is it going to be on someone?
No, that's something that will be handed to either the city attorney or city manager. And then but I didn't really discuss where the camera would be placed. That's something they discussed.
We'd have to find a convenient location for it to press start and stop.
It is a wide angle camera, so it can be placed on that desk across from the table and pick up everybody, the audio and video on it.
And then once the closed session is over,
Then what happens is after the meeting, they will hand off the body camera to me. The body camera is taken back over the department, put in a docking station that uploads it to the secured server where the digital evidence is stored. And then also on the I read the policy, and you have it in the policy to be for 2 years retention. We can actually set it up for that system to automatically delete that within that policy range.
I mean, I would like item 3 clarified.
Okay.
To designate special attorney or whoever, because the way this reads, anybody can be appointed to go in and give an opinion. I think it.
Okay.
Would have been nice if we'd had this starting 2023.
Josh, is that something, the clarification, is that something that can be done tonight and then we could actually take action on this item?
Yeah, well, you could take action and just the motion, if the council wants a clarification to restrict number 3 more, then we can make that, and well, that would be included in the final.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any comments, Mr. Mitchell? Nope. All right, we'll open up for public comment. Any public comment on this? You can state your name, sir.
My name is Jose Omanis. I'm from Mexico. No. I think this is a good idea. It's a good idea for staff members. It's a good idea for the public. It's a good idea for the city manager, the cops, or anybody. So in closed session, if somebody, city councilman says something against somebody that they're not supposed to, because closed session, you guys know what you're supposed to do in closed session. You can only talk about the item. You can't talk about Joe or Jack or anybody, you know that. So it's one of the best ideas that you ever come up with. Because there's been lawsuits, and if this camera would have been in that room, we would have been in trouble. That's all I can tell you. And I hope that you go ahead and do it. It's a simple thing.
Any other public comment? You want to zoom down? Close public comment?
I have one more.
Any other questions from council?
Wait, one.
That's the whole room?
Wait, one more question.
I just wanted to know if it did the whole room. So if somebody were to leap across the room, they'd be caught on camera.
It's, if we set it back far enough, yes, it's
Yeah.
wide angle. And if you want, come by the station, I can show you what they do.
Yeah, I would like it wide angle to show the entire room.
Someone want to make a motion?
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we adopt a new policy for audio video recordings of closed session meetings with the clarification as noted to our city attorney.
Do we have a second?
Second.
My first and second, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, moving on to item 4, consider adoption of a new policy for censure request of council members.
At the last council meeting, this was introduced that the city of Bayonne doesn't have a formal censure policy. And in my review of the records, it's happened before, but it wasn't really outlined in a specific policy to follow. So what you have before you would be my proposed procedure to try to give the council an idea of what type of conduct could potentially be subject to censure, the different options that the council could vote on, as well as the procedure that it would follow. Just first to explain the conduct that could subject council members to censure, your elected officials. So the form of discipline is really would be restricted to what's in this policy, because you wouldn't be subject to the employee handbook and those grievance procedures. But it would really be maintaining professional relations with the city staff, not respecting the city council manager form of government, interfering with collective bargaining rights of represented city employees, speaking for or representing the city without the authority of the whole city council, violating the Brown Act or Political Reform Act, which governs conflicts of interest, causing liability or extraordinary legal expense to the city, abusing public resources, engaging in harassment or discrimination, not generally upholding standards of civility and decorum, or engaging in abusive conduct and personal attacks. The procedure, I think, is probably the most important part of the policy. Any council member could initiate a request. It would have to be in writing and have supporting detail. The named council member would receive written notice with at least 10 days before an initial hearing. The whole council would then hold a hearing to decide if it should go further or if any discipline is warranted. At that point, council could authorize an investigation. You could also form an ad hoc committee of 2 council members if they wanted to conduct their own investigation and make a recommendation. And after that process is conducted, generally the 3 actions are an admonishment, which is not a very severe form, just a reminder that this conduct is frowned upon or prohibited. You could give an informal warning, which means a violation of the standards that the whole city council has agreed to, that there was a violation, but it's not so serious to warrant a formal resolution of censure. And then the most severe form would be directing your city attorney to prepare a formal resolution of censure, incorporating all the findings of the hearings and the investigation, which the council as a whole would have to vote on. So we want to provide some due process, make sure that the process isn't abused, and that any request for such discipline has some supporting detail so the process can go forward in a meaningful way. And if this policy is adopted, this would be the process expected of any council member who's looking to initiate a censure. I do have a comment from council member Atlin as well, that it should apply to all elected officials and not just council members. And that should be taken into account as well, because there are more elected officials at the city than just the council. And this is generally the form of accountability for elected officials when there are complaints against other council members. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
I read the policy. I think he did a very good job on this censure policy. And I think I commend you on it. Thank you. No questions.
I just agree with Dominic's statement. It should be all elected officials for the city.
I have no questions. You have anything?
Yeah, I agree. It should be all elected officials. I would even go so far as to extend it to appointed individuals that take the oath, meaning Parks and Rec, anyone who is appointed by the city and sits on one of our boards. I mean, if we're gonna apply it, let's cover that area too. I've seen it.
I have one question. The Parks and Rec take an oath? I've been on Parks and Rec many, many years of my life, and I've never been asked to take an oath.
They don't.
Excuse me? I didn't think so. Does Planning Commission take an oath?
Commission does.
Okay, I need to know that. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, any other questions or comments from council? All right, open up to public comment. I no public comment and on Zoom, chief? No? Okay, close public comment. Someone want to entertain a motion or discuss?
Two question for Josh. If we pass this, can we include all city elected officials?
Yes.
We'll have to come back, or can we do it now?
No, that would, I can make that change and we could finalize the resolution that way. If we also wanted to explore Councilmember LaFane's addition, that would take more time, but you could adopt it with that revision while I independently
the other.
look how to incorporate that the best way and to be also consistent with your code and removal procedures. So you could adopt it with that one while we look to see how to incorporate that one, because that one might take a little more time.
Well, I'd like to make a motion then. I'd like to make a motion to adopt a formal policy for censure for council members and all city elected officials.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have first and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. Moving on to our last item on the agenda. Consider directing city staff to prepare a request for proposals to obtain an investigation for a forensic audit of the city accounting and expenditures between the period of February 2021 through February 2025. Oral report.
This was a council member request. I will say, Councilmember LaFane did provide supporting detail, and I should have incorporated that in the agenda, but this is an oral report. I'll let Councilmember
Yeah.
LaFane speak to it.
This was submitted by two council members, Atlan and myself. We cited the Muni Code, provided justification, provided all of the information for the RFP, and we're pretty disappointed when I see you drafting all of these other staff reports and we don't get a staff report. So the request was for an RFP for a forensic audit of the city of Ione, to basically, because of the situation of the city finances, the lack of oversight, incorrect coding, lack of financial audits, the fiscal management over the years, and it at the February 2023 council meeting, the decision, we talked about this, and the decision was made to wait until our 2019 and 2020 audit was complete. That's why the request covers that time frame. And then we put in that the applicants must be licensed as a CPA, certified fraud examiner, experienced in the public sector. We, instead of identify, one of the things you want to do is identify what you want them to look at. Part of it was to look at the finance, public works positions, the city compliance with requests for RFPs, grants, disbursements, reimbursements, and things of that nature. This came about in 2023. The then Mayor Rhodes asked for, I have it here. He asked for a forensic audit in May, I think it was April or May. One of his comments was, let's get a forensic audit. At the Finance Committee in 2023, it was a recommendation then. Since that time, I've had more of an opportunity to look at the financial situation, the interfund borrowing on this city just in 2008 to 2009 is $3.7 million of interfund borrowing. You move on to 2009, 2010, it's another 614,000. Move on to 2009, well, hang on. In the 2021, 2022 budget, total interfund borrowing then was 2.4 million. Some of these could be duplicates. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tie them together. That's a lot of money that's bouncing around in between the city that is not being paid back, or we don't know if it's being paid back. But I mean, and if anybody wants a copy, this is all from the budgets. All of this interfund borrowing back and forth. A lot of it came from the police department over to the fire department. Some of these are loans. Some have never received a payment. And it hasn't been addressed. Or if it has been addressed, it certainly hasn't made a dent. We also have errors on warrants in 2023, of February 2023. There's a warrant on here for a $37,000 reimbursement to the city clerk. It's right here. Janice Traverso, reimbursement, $37,000. Things like this make you pause. If it's an error, I'm sure you didn't cash a $37,000 check. Exactly. But I mean, if that error is taking place, what other things are taking place? In the past 3 months, I've watched over $1 million go out the door with no supporting documentation. None. Up front, before the work is even started. Over $1 million to Waterstone, and not one, nothing to support the payment. Now, they're entitled to a 10% markup, but we don't even know if the 10% markup is in there, because we have no supporting documentation for that money. Our budget is probably $1 million off. I don't even know how we can balance a budget with all of this. And so I would like to put out an RFP, and Mr. Atlan was in favor and Mayor Rhodes was in favor back then. And I know Councilman Mitchell was also in favor. We talked about it. So I would like an RFP to go out. And
I would just like to bring up that the interfund borrowing has been addressed. The one good thing Michael Rock did do is he did address that, and we started a payment program. And I don't know if Michael's aware of this, but I'd like to, after council, I'd like to get Michael up here after we're done.
yeah, but
asking
we haven't
questions.
seen any of that.
That's fine. I don't have any questions. I guess we're considering this, but is this something that's going to go to public comment, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, I'll wait after public comment. I do know what I want to say though.
Anything, Mr. Mitchell?
No, I think my piece is just that with the turnover in accounting, clearly, obviously, you always want to know exactly what's going on financially. And I can tell you, I'm very aware of the interfund borrowing prior to being elected. We had 26 different funds that were borrowed from last I checked, and revolving in millions of dollars. I know I've talked to our finance outside prior to this meeting about how are we doing, where are we at, are we paying them back? And it's an investigation and uncovering those. Those take time. We've got audits going on, and I've certainly pushed the buttons a few times asking about the audit, maybe not here at the council meeting, but certainly in meetings with George and directly with finance to get those audits. And until those are done and until we get some stability, we're spending money on top of money. I think we need to have the audit done, and then by all means, we could have a forensic audit, or a forensic look. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Sure. First, let me start off with, it's totally relevant to want to dig into this. Oversight, it's needed. And more eyes on the subject matter doesn't hurt in the long run. Timing becomes something that's really important. I'll start off with just on the research I did, going through a handful of qualified companies, just getting rough estimates. We're looking at a $10,000 retainer for these services typically. The CPA, CFI individual at $425 an hour, and their staff anywhere from $100 to $250 per person per hour. We'd easily exceed our retainer. In this time of the year, anywhere from January to June, there's a markup on these expenses because this is considered the busy season for that trade. Usually that is averaged about a 50% markup. Talking to our current auditors and the time and man hours that they're putting in to finish the year that they're working on for 2021 at the time, this could range anywhere from about 38,000 to 64,000 conservatively per year that they audit. Part of that is just because of the way records have been kept historically. And some of this could be trimmed down because we have in the time period since found some of those documents. They're stored in a number of locations that you wouldn't think beyond just the file room. But still, on the low end, you're looking at 40,000, moderate end, $64,000. If you wait until after the audit, or at least after June, you've not only cut a year off of your research, but you get away that upcharge for the busy time of the season for that trade. So that's just the cost impact. And there's the man hour cost. Currently with our auditors who, you could choose to believe they're doing a great job or a poor job. They still require a certain amount of time from the staff to go searching for documents and finding things that they need. They'll give us a laundry list of things to bring to them. We'll go ahead and find them, usually within a day or two. And then 2-3 weeks go by and they have a new list. Hey, we need follow up on this, this, and this. Well, it would have been great to know that a little sooner, but that's where things are at. We rush to get them the next wave of stuff done. Currently, that takes the majority of one person that's a part-time worker. A good amount of her time is dedicated towards working directly with them, and some of that spills over to the rest of the staff to go looking for specific things. To bring in another accountant to start that process again, we'd have the one up. We found some of the stuff already, but you'd be taking and giving more work to the staff to do this. Now, if you find somebody that's willing to do it more in-house, like our older auditors we worked with last before our current ones, maybe that won't be as bad, but we're still looking at an upfront amount of time and a financial burden with it. I would advise that you at least wait until after this audit is complete, at least after this busy season. So sometime in the start of the next fiscal year, if you wanted to pursue this. And beyond that, I would also advise they're currently auditing the last year that is supposed to be troublesome. After the year that they're currently working on, it's mostly digitized documents. So we have been assured that not only are we going to a better auditor after this fiscal year that they're working on is done, but the work should be more streamlined after this. No more having to wait a year or two to get an audit from 4 years ago. More getting it almost right away. And we're in plans to try to get that as caught up as quick as we can. It benefits no one on staff for the audit to not be complete. I am being tasked with trying to create a budget for this next fiscal year, and I'm doing so with a lot of question marks along the way. It would give me great joy to have the audit done. No one is trying to hide stuff from the people or the council, and your council is being very, very supportive of getting the audit done as well. It is straight, just a deal with what we have currently, with who we're contracted with doing our audit. So I'd advise, let them do their job, let them finish, let us move on to our next auditor to get us the rest of the way caught up the rest of the remaining years, and let us get the information out and just be done with these audits. And if you do still decide you want to get a forensic accountant involved, which is your right, I'd say wait until after the expensive time of the year and when one more year is out of the way from this current audit.
Michael, what year are you currently working on the audit? One that currently you want to finish, what year is that? Is that 21?
It's 2021.
2021, 1920s complete?
It's done.
Done, okay. I'm all for, what's it called? The forensic audit. I believe in transparency. I think it's great, but I think we should consider this after the 21 audit is complete. That's my opinion.
Any other council questions from Michael?
Well, you know, that's the reason I narrowed it down. I can understand when you say it's, but when you narrow it down to specifics, it's not quite that large. Now, I understand what you're saying. We've already gone down this path once and said, after the audit's done, we'll get a forensic audit, which we didn't do. So here we are again. And now we're going to say again, well, let's wait till this one's done. And you do note on every single audit, not forensic audit, that we've had, the auditors have pointed out problems.
Yes.
On every single one. And they also say the one from the last audit was never remedied. Like, we are continuing to do the same thing. My concern is this will get shoved under the rug. These interfund loans, I don't know how, you know, I know we talked about getting them paid back and then it stopped. So have you been paid back, Chief?
I don't know.
Millions of dollars,
Working on it.
going back and forth.
I would say there's a lot of merit to what you're saying. If you,
Well, thank
if you
you.
let me, I would say that the more you reduce the scope of what you want a forensic accountant to look into, obviously the amount of man hours and stuff time and cost of them goes way down. If you want to broaden it to the hundreds of accounts that we have and do the same thing that our current auditors are doing, that's when the cost really spikes. It's still going to be expensive, especially this time of year regardless. And I do understand your concerns about it being swept, and maybe it's something that needs to be brought back. But I would say that your caveat on sort of reducing the scope on specific things, that does have some merit to it.
Well, I mean, I'm fine with, how long do you think this next audit, the one in progress, where are they at?
Well, the one that's in progress, we are in the busy season and we're not their only client. So we were at about 70–80%. We believe that in the next 3 months, maybe less, it should be able to get across the finish line, regardless of what their findings are. And what's great is, well, it's the silver lining of the whole situation, because the books aren't closed. If they do find things, it's quite simply, we bring it to everyone's attention and we fix whatever findings they have, because it's still legal to fix because the books aren't closed.
Right, I understand.
After that, it being digital, I would imagine it speeds up quite a bit, and we're going to somebody who historically has worked in-house and spends a couple of weeks per fiscal year doing the investigations on hand. So after this fiscal year, it should be one after another relatively quickly.
And to clarify, a forensic audit looks for things that are being done wrong.
They do, and they need direction of where to look and what to look for.
Well, I'm sure they're trained.
I'm positive they are, but we have hundreds of accounts. So unless you want them to search every single one,
No, I specified Public Works, RFP compliance.
again, so like I said, you have to give them some direction or else they have to search everything.
Okay.
Any other council questions? Comments? All right, we'll open up the public comment.
Thank you, Mike.
Any public comment on this? Anything on Zoom, Chief? Oh, close public comment. Someone want to entertain a motion or a direction or?
Well, I'd like to bring it back for discussion when the 2020 and 2021 audits are complete. Sounds like it would make it easier if we're moving into a digital process and go from there.
So we just want to table it till that time or make a motion to?
I think bringing it back up for discussion, that's fine. Once the audit's complete, that's a good idea. Just
And not do it again, not say next time.
we can bring it up for discussion to decide if we need to or not at that time.
Well, I
That'll be good.
Could do a different way. I think staff takes the direction and we'll bring it back after the audit, or you could just do a motion to continue it until after the fiscal year 2020-21 audit is complete.
Make it easy. What's the easy route?
I think staff received the direction that we'll bring it back after the 2020-2021 audit is complete.
Okay. All right. With that said, we have any reports and communications from the attorney?
No, I know we had some administrative policies that we're working through here the past couple of months, so I appreciate the council working through that and your feedback, and I hope we got everyone's revisions in there, and I will be talking to all of you soon, I'm sure.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Reports on communications from city manager.
Yes, just a couple things. First of all, the city lots that were in escrow closed today. So the city now owns those two lots in the city. Next, the Nexus study was completed. So that will come to the council soon with respect to a report and presentation by Wildan. In closing, I just wanted to take a few moments to address an extraordinary amount of misinformation and distortion of facts that have been spread publicly on social media and other public forums since the last council meeting. First of all, it has been posted by a current and former council member that the total cost of the turf conversion project was anywhere between $8 million and upwards of $20 million. This is not true. In fact, it couldn't be further from the truth. I had the estimate in my hand at the previous council meeting that was ignored. But for those who really want to know the truth, the total cost of converting all of the turf areas was $2.4 million. The entire thing, not 8, not 20 million. It was submitted by one of the top turf construction companies in Northern California, VPG. Phase 1 would have cost $993,000. Secondly, it was posted that the whole process of working with the Amarillo Water Agency was secretive in nature. Again, not true. I kept the majority of the council members aware on a regular basis as to the progress being made. More importantly, the insinuation by a current council member that the Amarillo Water Agency was the beneficiary of the amount of $4,000 fee for additional dwelling unit was also not accurate. In fact, it states in the resolution that the $4,000 fee was specifically allocated for the turf conversion project. It did not go to Amarillo Water Agency. It came to the city. To imply that the agreement was designed to be a profit generator for Amarillo Water Agency was not true. The Amarillo Water Agency is the city of Ion's partner in providing water to its residents. The board of directors of the AWA are prominent and active members of the community. The staff here at City Hall works with the AWA on a regular basis. To imply that the agreement was anything other than a win-win scenario for all of the parties was disingenuous at best. And finally, to disparage US Mines, a local company that employs over 120 people in Ione, was somehow complicit in a so-called shady deal that was solely for their benefit was again not true. If some members of the council want to cover for them, for their propaganda and want someone to blame, blame me. Not the public agencies that staff works hard with on a regular basis and or the local companies that provide a significant number of jobs here in Ione. My position as the present city manager dictates that I deal in facts and not misinformation to fit a particular agenda or narrative. This agreement was a win-win situation for all the parties, and unfortunately, in my opinion, a missed opportunity. I will, however, continue to fight for Ione and its residents by bringing to the council projects and ideas that address the needs of a city that has the largest population, but one of the lowest sales tax revenue in Amador County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. All right, we'll move on to council comments, committee reports, and future agenda items. I'll start with you, Councilmember LaFane.
Well, I'm assuming that some of that was directed at me. I did happen to go down to actually I was invited down to the arena. I hadn't been down there in quite some time. For someone to talk to me about my comments. And basically tell me to be quiet because we need some money for this project. Also, when I was down there, I noticed 6 bucking chutes and substantial work being done to the arena. I had no idea that this was happening. Altercations to the arena. New bleachers coming in, bucking chutes coming in, livestock pens coming in. So now I understand why our Parks and Rec commissioner quit. Because none of this has gone to Parks and Rec. They don't know anything about it. So when I go down there.
Everything was donated. Everything was donated. Everything. Everything was donated.
I'm not questioning that. What I'm questioning is you have these deals going on that your Parks and Rec department has no idea what's happening. Neither does this council. So, I mean, I went down there to talk to Mr. Gold and looked around and said, when did this all start? That's what I'm talking about. These backdoor deals that.
Donations aren't considered a backdoor deal, okay? When someone wants to donate monies or products, it's going to improve the facility. And to go through a process that takes a long time, we don't have time to do something sometimes.
We don't have
I just need
time.
to make a clarification. They were told at Public Works that there was a donation of bucking chutes. It is on a previous agenda,
No,
just for clarification.
I understand that the arena committee made all of these recommendations.
No, I'm saying they were told there was a donation of bucking chutes at a Park and Rec Commission meeting, at a previous meeting. I'm just clarifying.
So the city didn't expend any funds to anybody,
Zero.
zero. And
How did-
so there's a plan to alter the arena and
that's-
add, well, the bucking chutes have to be added.
Oh, that's Jeff Gold is handling that situation because he's.
Well,
familiar.
but Jeff Gold,
We're getting off topic.
this is council comment. That's my problem is here we have another thing happening out at the park. Just because somebody knows somebody, anyway. So I guess Jeff Gold's running the project and when it's
No, ma'am,
done-
I think relationships are important in Amador County. Relationships are extremely important in Amador County, okay? And to develop relationships with AWA, US Mines,
I'm
take
not-
time,
I'm not
okay?
talking about AWA.
So-
I'm talking about. a
And
city-
I was talking about AWA.
I'm talking
so
about a city asset that is being worked on.
that was just improved
What-
significantly for
Okay.
free.
No, listen, I'm all for it. I harped on you guys for 2 years to do all of these things. I'm glad you're doing them.
So just for clarification, they haven't been doing work out at the arena and it will go through Selena. Jeff is working with Selena and the arena committee and Park and Recs.
The arena committee's gone. They left.
Okay, well, we've had conversations with
Yeah.
Debbie and Stacy. So Selena is, so Jeff is not working on it without the city input and going to Park and Recs. Just like when the Bucking Shoots deal came, like it was an opportunity for the weekend, so we put it on the very next agenda, till the soonest agenda we had, to let Park and Recs know that there was a donation. They're sitting in the back, they put them out there nicely and neatly for us, because now they have to figure out if everybody's got to come together with the arena committee or Park and Recs to figure out if they want to have them outside with a lane or if they want to have them inside as part of the arena. That is not something that Jeff is deciding on himself. It's with the city.
Jeff's already got it all done. He told me everything. He showed me where the bleachers are going to go. He showed me where the Bucking Shoots were going to go. And
That's his plan, he's bringing to the city. He can't do it without us. He knows that.
You got anything, Councilmember Mitchell?
Are you done?
I just don't like being told to be quiet so we can get some money.
So Sunday I got to attend Charlie and Joel's memorial walk. Sorry I didn't get to walk. I was a little under the weather. I'm also fat. So it kept me from, but what an amazing event. And amazing seeing the community. I know some of you out there that I see in the audience walked, raising some money for kids programs, and just like the first year, the clouds parted and the sun came out for a bit. An amazing day. So congratulations on that. Miss Ione applications are open, and I'll remind you there's a walk for the troops on April 26th. I hope all of you can attend. Love Ione first.
I am going to piggyback on Jack with Charlie and Joel's walk. I went out there myself, and the weather was very iffy at the time, and I stood there for a little while trying to keep the awnings from blowing away. And just some amazing people there, and obviously amazing family and amazing event. And I was driving back from the park to come downtown. I saw just tons and tons of very soaked, determined people. It was heartwarming. It really was. I had something else, but I forgot what I was going to say. I do want to thank Mr. Lee for his comments tonight, also because they're heartfelt, and he's a man of honor and honesty, and he's a builder and not a divider. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
And I have nothing, so can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
First and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Good night.
Josh, can I talk to you?